Hello everyone, this is update for October 12, 2023, day 596 of the war and of the date update. Also catch up for October 11. There's not really much, not much news, but I'm gonna start with general strategic update, and then I'm gonna switch to the situation on the front line as I always do. I'm just going to jump right away to situation in Russia, and then I'm going to discuss the situation on the front line. So a few economic updates. So Russian government is actively trying to contain Russian currency, Russian ruble, so it doesn't go above 100 rubles per $1. And they came up with another trick how to do it, and that trick is they forcing to 43 largest Russian exporters to sell all of their currency that they earn into the Russian foreign exchange market. So basically what it creates, it artificially increases the amount of US dollars or euros on the Russian FX market, and then puts pressure and it makes Russian ruble look stronger. This is obviously a sort of illusion, or creating artificially stronger Russian ruble, and this is to keep the social calm inside of Russia, obviously. There are a few more interesting parts about this decree. This is, I think, Russian's president decree. First of all, it's a secret. So the list, well, not the entire decree, but the list of the exporters is secret. But it's 43 largest, so it's probably not that hard to figure out. And it's gonna last for 6 months. So it looks like it's introduced as a temporary measure, but the way things are going, it's probably unlikely going to be temporary, just probably going to turn into perpetual situation as long as the war continues, because that's really what drives this whole situation. And even more interesting is that there will be government representative assigned at each company to monitor sale of the effects of US dollars or euros. So basically it's like a commissar that's really running the economic entity, and ensuring that nothing is hidden from the eye of the government. So again, this helped Russian ruble to strengthen. So now it's trading in 96/97 range. So it went below 100, which is psychologically inside of Russia. It's like an important level. So I would say that this probably will last for some time, but it's not going to last for long. Eventually, this will wear out. Because the problem is not so much foreign currency as too many Russian rubles that are being created, too much Russian currency created by Russian government to finance war expenses, and eventually it will basically push ruble lower, and it will go above 100 per US dollar. Another sign that this is going to happen is that Russian inflation is accelerating sorry, to 6% per year. If for those who don't remember it, initially in, I would say, first 6 months of the war, Russia actually had deflation at that time. So now things are slowly but surely changing, and the pace of sort of worsening situation, which, because inflation is worsening situation economically inside of Russia, is accelerating. And I forgot to mention, just for the reference, this special measure about selling all of the currency that's earned This actually was it existed in Russia in the past, in the 90s, when the Russian economy was really bad shape, till 2001. Actually, technically, it existed till about 2006, but in 2001, it was essentially disbanded, and it was more or less free market. Then, actually, Russian government introduced this measure in February through June of 2022. That's how they managed, one of the tools how they managed to contain decline of Russian currency and actually reverse it and strengthen it. I think that it was as low, as strong as in some 50s, I think mid 50s or high 50s to US dollar. But eventually, as I said before, it will wear out, and sort of nature will take everything in its hands, and the Russian ruble will continue its decline. On the positive side for Russia, in September there is statistics came out that shows that Russia sold large amount of crude oil. It's largest since July of 2022, which at that time it was, if those who don't remember or didn't watch, Russia was selling since like February, I would say March, April, and then through July, really large amounts of crude. So it was 6.6 million barrels per day, which is a large number. Russia used to produce 11, and they do need about 2 to 3 for internal consumption. So it's pretty much everything sold, and the price, weighted average price, was about 81.8 US dollars per barrel, which, as you can see, is way higher than this ceiling that was established. And as you can imagine, all of this sanctions on Russian energy export is simply not working, as you can see from these numbers. Russian crude oil export is thriving and bringing a lot of revenue for Russian government, which obviously helps to fuel war effort and helps to contain decline of Russian ruble as well. But as I said, the strength of the creating new currency is much larger than this increase in the revenue from the crude oil sales. So eventually it's going to be sort of outweighed, and Russian ruble will continue to decline, and inflation will continue rising in Russia. But for now, it's working, as I said. Now let's switch to the situation on the front line in Ukraine. I would say, as a summary, I would say just Ukrainian forces are definitely on defensive. I mentioned this before, and I'm just confirming that this continues. And Russian forces attempting to take initiative, but so far they were not really terribly successful, I would say. This is just, so I would call them failed attempts to do that, but they do try. So let's just actually start work through the front line in a clockwise fashion, starting from very north, as I always do. So the situation along the state border remains the same, nothing special there. Now let's jump to the North Lugansk front line. Russian forces continuing their attacks against this village Avdiivka. Again, tactical attacks, nothing major, without any major success to show for that. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line. Northern sector is section of the of the front line is essentially frozen. But in the southern, Russian troops continuing their tactical counterattacks to capture back lost ground, so far without any success. basically status quo remains here. Now let's look at central Donbass front line. So I mentioned previous video was on the 10th that Russian forces managed to do some fairly strong local tactical offensive that was actually done somewhat better than typically has been done by Russian forces and Ukrainian forces, because if I characterize what they're doing is just basically like peasants' armies attacking. First there's Russian, then there's Ukrainian, now there's Russian again. But this one was a little bit better, actually, in some ways significantly better. It's still sort of terribly there's still a lot of terrible mistakes and everything, but it's definitely, there's very clear progress. But let's look at the situation around this. I'm talking about Avdiivka. So their attack from this on the southern flank completely failed. Russian troops didn't get anywhere far. They did manage to move a little bit in the north, and let's actually look at the situation. So this is the attacks on their southern flank, but on the northern there were attacks against this village Stepove, and attempts actually a little bit north of it. They failed, but where the Russian troops seem to be had success, and it is actually important success, this sort of kind of brownish spot. This is a large coal waste heap, or like a cone-shaped mountain from a coal waste, and that's because there is coking coal factory here where I'm showing. So basically Avdiivka is actually important economic center for steel manufacturing, and so this coking coal making plant is actually the part of that economic cluster. So this because it's sort of like a very tall hill, then you're gaining basically control, or commanding control over the entire area, and that's probably putting at risk this supply road that's going through this village Avdiivka, then Lastachkine, basically to the rest of Avdiivka. So it's essentially allows Russian troops to control and observe and obviously disrupt logistics, and that's the biggest problem and challenge was this, and ability to retake this coal waste hill is essentially close to zero for Ukrainian army. So again, this was, even though this is just this hill, it actually was a major success for Russian troops. And I would say in the long run, it really puts at risk Ukrainian forces in Avdiivka, and the ability to hold on to Avdiivka in the long run for Ukrainian forces. So, as I said, the initial attack was partially successful, but it creates strong launching pad to continue attacks against Avdiivka and eventually take Avdiivka, and that's, as I said, problematic for Ukraine, basically for Ukrainian forces. This is how it actually looked in March. So as you can see, there's not much of a change since then, except this important cone has been lost. Now let's move to the Zaporizhzhia front line. Things here essentially much quieter. There are some Russian tactical counterattacks. They don't go anywhere. Nothing really even worth mentioning from Ukrainian side. So it's turning into the sort of quieter section of the front line. I'm not sure if it's gonna remain quieter, but from Ukrainian perspective, it looks like Ukraine is going to be on defensive going forward. Now let's switch to the last section of the front line, which is along the Dnipro River, and things here are completely quiet, which is again reflective of the situation on the Zaporizhzhia front line, because they are kind of like interconnected vessels, because you need to use kind of both to achieve results. And as I mentioned before, this could have been a great opportunity to launch a true offensive, true attack, because it was clear that Ukrainian forces were stuck on the Zaporizhzhia front line for various reasons. But apparently this whole plan is abandoned, and as I said, the Ukrainian forces are now on defensive. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. Until next time.